Maybe. Okay, we're on air. It is Thursday, June 28th, and this meeting is to check in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS. Most of these are core issues, but we'll get there in a minute. First, contributed project updates. We have a new contrib project. At Twin Cities Drupal Camp, Nate and I did a live module port of the menu attributes module, which had actually been started twice before. And then I think this week, someone else started a fourth port of the menu attributes module. I'm happy to announce that that is now in contrib, so there will not be a fifth port of it. Nate put the module, he spent a bunch of time cleaning up the module that we ported live during the training and put that into the contrib group. So I've reached out to the person who did the fourth port and asked if they would be interested in collaborating with Nate on the third port. So hopefully we'll get everybody working together rather than needing to do that again. And more exciting news about that module is that was the last one of the top 68 modules in Drupal contrib that hadn't been done for Backdrop yet. So other than things that we are already working on, like media in different ways. But that's great because now our presentation is going to have only like 2 red X's for modules that don't exist in the top 68 or something like that. So thanks everybody for all of your work on menu attributes, and I'm glad that we got it in contrib so that everyone else who needs it can have it.
Yeah, shout out to Dave Burns. He was the one that did the initial port that then my port was based on.
I think Dave did the second port.
That may be true. That's the one that I used.
Yeah. But it's now available.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yes.
Why top 68 precisely?
Because that's how many would fit on my slide.
Okay.
I started with the top 50 and then I added like a couple more and a couple more and a couple more until they didn't fit anymore, and so it was 68. I keep going back and trying to like make my font smaller and my columns different sizes and stuff, so maybe we'll get more in the near future.
I think it's 68 because it's divisible by 4 and there's 4 columns. It's just what's in the presentation at the moment.
Just, you know, a number. Okay, well, that's all. Oh, wait, website. We know we need to work on modules, themes, and layouts on backdropcms.org. I haven't had any time to work on that lately. If anyone else wants to work on that, definitely welcome. The things we want to make sure is to fix the search so that people can find which modules, themes, and layouts are available. Things like menu attributes should be easy for people to find on the site. And then also we have some new designs that can be implemented for those pages that could also use some help. So anyone who wants to work on that is more than welcome to. It's issue number 442 in the backdropcms.org queue. And that's it for peripheral stuff that we're working on. I want to turn it over to Nate to talk about Backdrop CMS status. Backdrop status.
Hi. All right. Okay. Well, we normally start off talking about the current release and bug fixes that are going into the next version, which would be 1.10.2. The only one that we have for calling out during this meeting is issue 2904, which is a problem with the database credentials. There still hasn't been any update on that that issue. We have code that fixes the problem, but we need to surface it in the status report. Continues to be pending, basically needing some additional work there. I started that one, and if anybody else wants to jump in there, please feel free. That just needs some work, showing stuff on the status report, saying that we're using a workaround. The workaround itself is already in that pull request, though. There are a number of issues that are flagged for 1.10.2 in the 1.10.2 milestone. Let me take a look real quick here at that list. I saw that there's some new items that have been added in there. Gregory, thanks for adding that one regarding the hover indication on selecting layout templates. That has been something that's bothered me actually quite a bit. The way that those statuses are shown when you're selecting a layout.
I have started a pull request on that, and it gets tricky. So you cannot at the same time fix the styling on hover and when it gets keyboard focus. So Yeah, I'll file 2 separate pull requests and ask some input from Wes, as he's the guru there. But yeah, it's annoying, or else I would have already filed the pull request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tricky. Let's see, there are 24 current issues that are in the 1.10.2 queue. Every single one of them, with the exception of that one that we just talked about, has a pull request filed. 3 of them needs work, and all of the remaining ones are, 3 of them need review, and all of the remaining ones need work. So there's a lot of issues out there that are of substantial importance that all have progress started. It would be really great if we could go through some of those, get some of the original authors that made those pull requests, and then have the feedback addressed and re-rolled on all of those pull requests. So if you file a pull request recently, or even not so recently, please go take a look at it and see if it has been marked needs work, because there's an awful lot of things that we have pull requests for, but then people just didn't come back to them. So that's it for 1.10.2. Let's talk about the next release, 1.11.0, which will be September 15th, 2018. There's a lot of things that we are working on all together. And as we progress towards release, probably some of these things will whittle down a little bit. But for now, we've got a broad buffet of things to choose from that are being worked on for 1.11. The first one is issue number 37, which is one of our oldest open issues, which simply enables modules to have tags or multiple categories in which they are placed, is another way of thinking about that. We have an issue and a pull request for that. There hasn't been any updates on it recently, but that issue is currently, the pull request needs a little bit of work. There's some discussion. A decision has been reached, but we just need to update the PR to reflect the decision that has been made. Jen, do you have any thoughts or updates on that? I know you were the one last touching it.
Yeah, I think it's assigned to me, but I haven't made any progress on it this week.
Okay. Are you planning on tackling that eventually still?
I am, but if anyone else wants to work on it first, they can. Maybe I'll unassign it for myself until I actually sit down to work on it, so that others can grab it.
Yeah, that'd be a good move. Okay, next up is contact module improvements. OP has made a meta issue, or we have a meta issue at issue 3023, which lists a number of improvements to contact module. A couple of them have been merged already into 1.11. And it looks like from the way things are going, contact module should get some pretty substantial updates in the next version. The current issue that is ready for review, or that is progressing and is almost there, is issue 2872, which is just a minor improvements to the user interface for the recipient list, making it so that it is more robust in the formats of how you can type in email addresses, and then they're accepted no matter what format you use, instead of requiring commas only. That just needs a little bit of minor work. Opie has said that he will come in and re-roll it when he gets a chance. The things that will probably follow up after that, there's a lot of discussion around enabling contact module in the standard profile and what that may mean, like if it's initially only for authenticated users, whether or not we want to add a link to the contact page into the primary navigation, whether or not we need to start including spam prevention in core, all of those things. So that's kind of that's a little bit of a gnarly issue, but there are steps that we could take to do things iteratively, like having it be available to authenticated users initially. But I think we want to avoid anything that's confusing at the same time. So anyway, lots of discussion happening on contact module. Start at the meta issue at 3023 and then proceed to the minor issues from that meta. Speaking of meta, and long neglected modules getting substantial updates is the next meta issue is 1905, which is major color module improvements. And Joseph Flatt, who is here in the meeting, Josef, has been doing some substantial work on color module. The most recent work has been in issue 1949, which previously was just a cleanup of the existing color module UI. But Wes had some substantial ambitions around improving color module. And it looks like, Joseph, you may have picked up some of those changes and implemented into that issues pull requests. Do you want to give a little summary about how far you're taking that and what you're using as your basis for the UI changes there?
Sure. So at the current time, what's in that pull request is converting the form to use the color input for HTML5, and then I also added a polyfill to support color inputs in Internet Explorer. And then it also has like a live preview that shows your actual site, and you can click around inside of it and see various pages on your site in the preview, and it has the modified colors from the form instead of the colors from your settings.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It's a little buggy at the moment. I have to fix it up a bit, and I still have a lot of work to do with CSS for making it actually look good. But yeah, I've been trying to follow some of Wes's mockups, like the ones that he has in the meta issue. So yeah.
Right now, I desperately want to go and look at this, which is what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Second that. Joseph, what would you like feedback on mostly? Like just kicking the tires in general or something specific?
Like
with it?
if you find any bugs, that'd be great. Currently, I'm trying to figure out a bug where sometimes the iframe just doesn't show anything. So that's kind of a bad user experience when the preview is just a border and not actually a preview.
Notorious for fighting bugs. So.
Okay. Yeah.
That is so true. Oh my gosh. Wow. I didn't even know what's do you have any idea what the browser support is for color elements right now?
Can you change
color elements?
Can you do a screen share, Nate?
Oh yeah. Screen share. Application window. Here we go. So here it is. This is on the Sandbox site. And because I just shared a single window, I don't think this will work. Yeah. Hang on. Let me share my entire screen.
Yeah.
Because okay. Sorry. This is okay.
Can I use
stuff happening?
CanIUse.org says that every major browser except for Internet Explorer currently supports the color input.
Which basically means everybody, because Internet Explorer is widely considered to be kind of dead.
Right. There is something to get it to actually be a circle, like in Wes's mockups. I had to style a pseudo element, and that pseudo element does not exist in Edge yet. So in Edge, it's actually a square and not a circle.
Oh, that seems pretty minor, though. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, and so when I click on the color element, this window pops up, and this is Firefox. I'm guessing, Joseph, that this is Firefox doing this, this isn't the polyfill. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in Chrome or in Edge, that'll look different.
Wow. So if I select something, like if I want to express my fandom of KU, for example, then. And so this is the actual site over here in this preview.
Yeah, and you can actually like edit pages and configure the site inside the iframe, and it'll all work, and it'll all be reflected on the live site.
Wow. But it's if I go to the home page of my actual site, it's still using the previous settings, right? Yeah.
Right.
So it's
Yeah,
not
and that's
saved.
yeah, and those are stored in the session, so we could all be editing this page at the same time, and it would show all of us a different preview.
Wow. This is wonderful. Like an actual preview of the actual site. This is, yeah, wow. And the like appearance just looks so much better. It hadn't even occurred to me like what kind of possibilities you get if you remove the color wheel, right? Because the color wheel was taking up all of this space, and now with it not taking up so much space, there's more opportunities here.
Could be interesting for the node preview issue.
Yeah, doing something really similar to this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. End of use preview.
You know, I don't know. We can probably discuss this more in the issue. It might be good to remove the admin bar, and that made me start thinking that maybe we should actually like show the anonymous experience rather than the logged in one in the preview. But yeah, that gets into all kinds of things. Well, this looks really promising. Very exciting.
Yeah, because the problem that I was having with modifying this is that it always shows it as the same person who's viewing it in the outside page because of your session.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I just hadn't figured out a way to modify that yet.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop sharing before work starts posting sensitive information. Okay. Great. That looks really fantastic and so exciting. I love the just the UI updates. Just look just tremendously better. You know, that color module interfaces existed practically unchanged for almost like probably more than a decade. So that's it's all very exciting. We'll have to see what we do about Farbtastic. I'm curious to know what the polyfill looks like.
I guess I could start my virtual machine and share my screen.
It almost makes me wonder, like we can discuss this further in the issue too, but you know, is a polyfill necessary? Like, you know, I don't know. I think we need to take a look at our browser policy and see like what our options are there. Like if a polyfill is unnecessary because you know, if all that we really need is you know, a degraded experience, you know, just the basic functionality where you can enter in the hex codes if you don't support color fields, then that might be good enough.
Okay. Oh.
Are you going to start up your VM, or should we just move on?
Yeah, I can show you guys what it looks like.
Okay. All right. Well, hang on for a second.
Oh.
The improvement in this preview over what we had before is just shocking. It just works so much better. Like,
can you see this?
Oh, okay, here we go.
So this is what it looks like. And it's just kind of, it was just adding one line in the form API stuff for the form to put that in there.
What is this a library?
Yeah, it's called Spectrum. I can put a link in the chat. It's what is actually it's what generates the color picker in the Firefox DevTools.
I think, yeah, that more things to be discussed. Like, can we remove Farbtastic, or would we need to just leave Farbtastic in there, even though it's not being used, or whether or not we want to, even bother with the polyfill, like I said,
Okay.
or if we could use Farbtastic as the polyfill, which I'm sure would take quite a bit more work, because Farbtastic doesn't have this kind of ability to act as a polyfill, as far as I know.
I think I found a bug. It's not actually updating in Internet Explorer.
Well, some things to improve upon. Anyway, it looks great. Thanks for your work on this, Joseph. If we can push some of these things to fruition, if you feel like things are getting too challenging to fix entirely, like scale back the ambition just a little bit, and then some of these improvements, like if we could implement the preview without the color picker changes, like that would be huge. But as it's all together right now, like I'd say keep pushing forward on it until you hit any like roadblock this completely that would completely block progress. Because at this point, it looks like the problems are surmountable still.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Just a quick search online just shows that Internet Explorer uses these from 3 to 7, like looking at various sources, 3 to 7%. Just mentioning that, if it makes things easier.
What's that, Gregory? I didn't follow that.
So a quick search on browser market share shows various sites ranging from 3 to 7% for Internet Explorer globally. So
yes, yeah,
if it makes
IE of all flavors, even like IE11, which is like 2%, and then all of the other IEs combined are like less than 1%, or I mean combined less than 2%, but each one of them is all less than 1.
Yeah, globally abandoned.
So this one's Edge, by the way. These are the squares.
Yeah, that's a little silly. So so the color element is inside of it. Oh, I see. It just doesn't support the rounding of the corners.
Yeah, so the color element in all browsers is actually a pseudo element inside of the input. And most browsers, most browsers let you style it, except for Edge. Edge is the only one I've found so far that doesn't let you style the pseudo element. So yeah, that's all.
I think that's fine for a degraded experience.
Yeah, I agree. Also add a message that says if you don't like it, switch browsers.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's carry on. That's all very exciting. And in addition to just the UI overhaul, there's also the pull request to colorize basis, which hasn't been merged in yet, but it's got pretty wide approval on making that move forward. So that also is something that we can look forward to having in 1.11. Okay, next up is issue 3062, which is bringing back the node preview functionality. This is Mike needs feedback, which is true, but it also needs work as well, doesn't it? Did it get updated to work with layouts yet?
So Document had actually updated it to work with layouts before last week's meeting. So he's been doing a ton of great work on it right now. The only feedback he needs is if we want to kill the links in the preview or not.
Like you can't click on them?
Yeah, because if you, in Drupal 8, if you navigate away, you lose your content. In Backdraft, you can get your content back by going back to the add form. So it's not quite as bad, but just in terms of, like, do you want to let people get lost or not in the first place? And then he also had a question last week, which I'm not sure has been entirely resolved. We just wanted confirmation on whether we wanted to proceed with the temp store idea, or if we wanted to instead use the save a draft idea for the preview. And I said that I like the temp store idea, but I think if anyone else has other preferences as to which way to go, that might still be open for discussion. So I think you'd originally proposed that idea in the comment thread, but it was something that others have been talking about as well.
Right. Yeah. I think it looks like a lot of people have said thus far, including Doc Wilmot and Herb Duel and Graham 72 and Olaf, that you know, like, we're much more excited about just like having something rather than, you know, postponing it based on a much more ambitious feature set. So yeah, I mean, I was making that proposal based on the thought that maybe it's something that would happen just like naturally. And it looks like if this approach, you know, we have it available, then I think we can move to saving this draft later, possibly for the preview. But, you know, I'm not gonna, I don't think anybody should really complain about having this substantial improvement based upon a hypothetical feature that we don't have a timeline for.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So Node Preview is really coming along. I see that he's also added the capability to check different view modes now as well. So when you view, it also can switch between view modes via a dropdown, which is all very, very exciting. Yeah, that's really great. So yeah, needs feedback. Check out issue 3062. Try out the sandbox. Post your comments and feedback there on things that could potentially be improved. Looks like Doc Wilmot's mostly looking for people to try it out and post their opinions. So opinions wanted, which is usually the easiest kind of feedback to get.
Bike shedding.
Yeah, exactly. Although it's different in that, like, we're not arguing about things. It's really just like, I just don't know which way to go, and so giving feedback like that is appreciated.
I will take a look at the ticket as well, but about the thing that I mentioned before, like we have, I'm not sure if architecturally they're the same thing, but the preview that we have now for color, this preview and the preview for views, are they totally separate things, or are they using, like, the underlying technology is the same, like the temp store thing?
They're all different. I mean, they're all, well, the node preview is not even really Ajax driven. It's purely based on like opening up a new tab, and then you see the entire page of the node in a new window. The color preview is an iframe, and the views preview is Ajax requests that updates the bottom of the page. I think Wes has ambitions to, if you saw the UX meeting last week, he had a proposal that uses an iframe for the views preview as well. But
yeah. What's the video after the fact, like just before the dev meeting? Yeah, I'm excited about that as well. So it's looking good.
I think the problem with using an iframe on the page is that, like, we need to figure out each user interface is different, and we need to find a location to put that preview on the page. And I think in the case of this one, which is a node preview, which a node typically has a page, it could be a little bit strange looking at a tiny version of the node that had like tiny little text, you know, or I don't know. Yeah, they're all different at this point. But there might be a good reason for them all being different. They're all different user interfaces with different purposes. So
previewing different things too. Like in one case, you're previewing content that would be in the database. In another place, you're previewing variables that would be in config. And with views, you're previewing the results of a SQL query. And so it's kind of even though if they're all previews, the mechanisms for previewing whatever it is are different too. So I think that, you know, in the future, if we wanted to have a standard like preview thing, we would need to figure out like what's actually the same between these things and what, because right now they're all sort of distinct in terms of how they work, what they do.
Okay, well, it's still very exciting, really great progress happening on there. Let's see, so let's move on to the next item, which is adding an image browser, which is issue 3134, in which Graham72 and Doc Bowman have been doing a lot of really great work. Gregory, I saw that you've been doing a lot of great reviewing on that. And actually, I haven't had time to read over this issue, but it looks like maybe you have. Could you give us an update, Gregory, as you're the only one on this call, I think, that's had a look recently reviewing it?
So yeah, the functionality in general is like pretty awesome. There's just minor things that have been either overlooked or just were second priority, like when you double click existing images, it switches by default on the image upload instead of the image browser thing. So there's tiny things that should be fixed. And once again, it's real estate issues as to where the actual library of previews should be placed, like on the side. If it's not if the screen is narrower, then it should switch to be rendered at the bottom of the model, the dialog, and then also how the previews of the images themselves, if they're not aligned or if they occupy a lot of space and different tiles, so to say, it looks a bit messy. But overall, it's a big improvement. Like,
did those bugs regarding the pager get addressed? Does the pager now work if you want to go beyond the first page?
I think there's no pager, like or at least the sandbox that I've tested didn't have enough images to cause pagination, so I haven't tested that one. But that's a good point. Maybe I should add some images to see what happens.
Yeah, there's some kind of problem that happened with the jQuery, the last jQuery UI update. It seemed like, because it worked prior to 1.10 coming out, and then afterwards, after we did the update, it caused a jQuery error of some kind. So anyway, that may have some larger problem that we might.
I wouldn't mind if there was no pagination to begin with, and it was an endless scroll or whatever. Of course, there would be the loading of multiple things there as a performance issue. But what strikes me as the most missing bit is the filtering atop, like searching and filtering.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, it's still work in progress. Having said all that.
Okay, yeah, that's still really great work there, making it so that we have a much improved way of reusing images. Actually, this is kind of the only way to reuse images at the moment. Like, you can hack in ways to reuse images, but at this point, there's no out-of-the-box capability to do so, and this would empower that, which is great.
The other minor sort of like usability issues, like when you select an image, it doesn't show you that it doesn't indicate that it's selected. And having in mind I can't remember if it was a screenshot or a video about the respective Drupal module. When you're selecting, I think it could have been one distribution, maybe Lightning. When you select images, like there's an overlay of a tick box that shows you that this is what is selected. And this reminded me of the way that we have the select thing for the layout template tiles. So if that's a pattern, maybe we should just be consistent about it. But yeah.
I think that we're still working out the pattern for selecting layouts, right? Isn't that other issue that we mentioned earlier that we need to figure that one out too? So we don't actually have a pattern that we can apply because the other pattern doesn't really work great either, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the other thing is that the layouts thing is that we're sort of like hacking the styling of checkboxes. I'm not sure if this is the case with images.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there are images or checkboxes in that particular form. So I don't know. But even if implementation-wise they differ, like visually we could make them look the same if we can figure out a good visual indicator.
Yeah. Even just a simple border change or something like that would be. There's absolutely no indication at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So design folks definitely needed in this particular area. Design and even more importantly, UX folks needed. Let's move on. Next up is automatic updates, which is a big meta issue at issue 2018. We've split this into a number of smaller issues, two of which are in a state that needs review. One of them is allow core updates via the user interface, which is issue 3105. Jeff made that pull request a while back. It's difficult to test, but the functionality seems like it's all there. I think Gregory found an issue or two that managed to break the automatic updates capability. And I don't think it's been updated since then. So this actually may really be needs work rather than needs review. But that issue makes it so that you can update Backdrop Core via the user interface in the same way that you can update contrib modules. I think the problem Gregory ran into was a combination of when you try to update core and authorize.php needs to be used, which is when Backdrop can't write to the file system directly. It has to use authorize.php to basically act as an FTP user to replace the files. So yeah, that definitely needs to be addressed. It's also kind of worth noting that we have an older issue that says I don't have the number, but it's use authorize.php for the installer project, because right now, if Backdrop can't write to the file system for the installer module, it just says, I'm sorry, I can't install. But if you do it for updating a module, then it uses authorize.php and asks for new credentials and then can indeed update modules. So we need to kind of go one way or the other, like either use authorize.php for everything or remove authorize.php and just say Backdrop always has to be able to write to the file system, which in the case of automatic updates is going to be required. It has to be able to write to the file system, and storing your username and password permanently for the FTP user would be a very poor idea. And it would be better to be just have the files directory or the PHP directory be writable, I would think, rather than storing your password for the entire SSH or FTP account on the server. So anyway, that problem might go away if we were to just remove authorize.php entirely and just say, you have to be able to write to the file system. Anyway, oh, go ahead.
I have a question to Geoff, because in the issue we had difficulties to test an improvement of the PR, because there in the PR was a unwanted file, a SWP file, and it made it more difficult to test the further progress of the PR. And Geoff, I wanted to ask you if you think you can figure out how to remove this SWP part from the patch, so that we can test further.
Everything I did so far, it still runs through that iteration that had it, and it first adds it and then removes it. I don't know if that's because of it being a GitHub patch, but the only other thing I can think of is to re-roll it. And I haven't had time to do that, but that's a thing that could be done.
Yeah.
I've been testing on my local just because of that. So.
Yeah, and Gregory, did you manage to test the progress, because there was one progress in the PR. I don't remember exactly which now, because it's time ago. So it was an improvement of the user interface, and we didn't manage to test that part. So if you,
I can take a look. I can take a look. Like,
yeah,
it's that I have my hands full for the weekend, but I can take a look.
yeah, that
Yeah.
would be nice.
Okay, thanks. I will.
Great. So other items in automatic updates, issue 2555, which is just moving the profiles directory from the root underneath the core profiles directory. We've mentioned this past couple of weeks, it's still kind of just stuck there and needs review land. I think we've kind of reached consensus on whether or not we should make a root empty profiles directory as well. So any additional thoughts, please post them to 2555. Otherwise, I think that that might be moving into RTBC here, unless there's any other reason to hold that one up. Package signing is issue 1992. This is an issue in which there's some progress updating project module, backdropcms.org, and backdrop core to add package signing to the packages that are downloaded, to make it so that it would be much, much, much more unlikely that any kind of spoofing could occur, to make it so that when an automatic update was applied, it applied an archive from a nefarious or unexpected source. So lots of great work happening there in issue 1992. The status there is that we have like prototypes basically, but it still needs quite a bit of work getting all of those pieces in place. Okay, more issues. Oh, okay. The last three issues looks like, thank you, Jen, for arranging the agenda in this way. The last three issues, we haven't had any updates, so I'll just briefly mention that we're working on them, but not recap. Better workflow handling for making it so that the status of whether or not something is a draft or scheduled or published is issue 1475. No updates since last week. Better statistics tracking, which is separating the tracking of, well, it has a lot of different components, but making it so that we can get better statistics about the way people are using their backdrop websites is issue 285. No updates since last week. And making it so that strings within config files are exposed properly, or config translation just in general, is issue 704, and no updates since last week there either. There's a bucket of other issues that are in the GitHub issue tracker for 1.11. You can check it out by seeing or filtering to the 1.11.0 milestone on GitHub. Anything else product update wise that you guys would like to mention?
Perhaps that UI's redesign thing should be part of this list.
Yeah, so yeah, we discussed it last week during the UX meeting that Wes has been taking a stab at the Views UI. I'm not even sure if that's like realistic for 1.11. I think it's great that he's putting together like prototypes and concepts, but I'm not even sure that we're anywhere near like trying to attempt an implementation there. So I think maybe for 1.11 we should hold off until we have a more clear plan to actually move that towards implementation.
Fair enough. The list for 1.11 is big anyways. Very ambitious, as it is.
Yep, though it is great that that we're taking a look at that again. Let's see, Jeff, do you want to give an update on Backdrop for Good?
Yeah, so I think it was last week I mentioned that we had some additional communications with the partner, which is Black Lives Matter Memphis, and that came to some issues in the queue. So if you're interested in participating, there's new, fresh issues that anybody that is interested can can grab and take a look at and see if you want to participate.
Awesome. And that's under github.com/backdrop4 good, right?
So there's actually, sorry, I haven't been keeping up to date with this. So we have actually found a potential project that we are working on, or more than one?
One project currently, and there's some code behind it and some concepts. So there's an issue queue dedicated. So under the Backdrop for Good GitHub, it's a group. So any partners that start building things will have repos that are underneath that. So there's one current repo, which is BLM 2020, which has some issues and some working code and a working backdrop site, and some features that need to be built.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other things that you guys would like to bring up? Any general questions or anything that we would like to add to the agenda for the next meeting?
I'd be interested in your opinions in an issue where I ran in the last days, and I needed, it's a small thing, I needed a current date in a view. So so the date of today when I watch a page or a views block, so I need the current date in it. It's for a citation information from a scientific journal, and where at the end is written read on and then the date of today. And then I was very much surprised that it's not possible to get the current date in a view. And I Googled a lot and looked at Drupal.org, and it's the same problem in Drupal. It's not possible directly, only with views PHP and so on. And so I stumbled upon a lot of issues who asked for token support in the global custom text field of views. And in Drupal, a lot of people asked for it, but it was never discussed seriously to implement it. And I thought it maybe would be a good idea to implement it in Backdrop, because it could be very useful for a lot of use cases. And but I have no idea if it's easy to implement or not.
Olaf, rewinding back a little bit to the thing that you're trying to attempt.
Yeah.
You said that you're trying to show the date when something was viewed. Is that right? And
Yes.
Is it always today somehow?
Yeah. So it's hard to explain for me with my English, because it's a scientific
I can help with that
journal.
if you want.
Can you explain it maybe to Gregory? Because I think...
So you're displaying a node, and then on the sidebar you have a block that is supposed to provide a permalink, so to say, but a citation permalink for this specific node that you're viewing. So this needs to include a small, short description, the path to the node, which are easy to achieve, and last should be today, like now, the date. So it's a sort of like a permalink, sort of like citation standard thing that you can paste to other things referring to that article.
Yeah, you couldn't paste this in your document. So if you write a scientific article, you have all the citation block info, so author and name of the article, and publication place. And at the end is written in parentheses, read on 4th of July, 2018.
Yeah.
So-
So what came to mind straight away was just adding a last field there and using a rewrite for that field, but we would need to have a token that spits out the today's date all the time.
Yeah, that would be a good global field. Like you can, there are global fields for other things. I'm trying to think of an example. Like some of them are just like, just spit out plain text, but we could have a global field for just like just today's date would be a simple way. Also, we do have there's the history database table that tracks when a user last viewed a comment or a node. And so if they were looking at the node, the history table would actually have already been updated to say, you last looked at this node right now. So you could use that as well. However, I just looked at the implementation and there's only filters set up. So you can filter by when a user last looked at a piece of content, but there's no field for when you last looked at a piece of content. So that would also work as an alternative. And then you could actually usefully like make a listing, like a larger listing saying the date that you last looked at every piece of content and show the date next to each time you looked at something, which could be very useful.
But I think the token approach for the global custom text field in views could also solve a lot of other use cases. So because the current date is maybe like a quite special use case, but there are a lot of other tokens which could be useful to display in a view. All the site information, so name of the site, and all this general tokens. The information is there, but it's not in views. So, and we have other places like the URL patterns, where you can just pick these tokens and use it. And why not use it in this field? Because it's also strange because in Drupal, I don't know how it's in Backdrop. In Backdrop, you can use these tokens in the header and in the footer of a view, but not in the fields. So that's very strange.
Is there an issue number for?
In Drupal, yeah, I didn't make it. Wait a minute, I posted. We posted in Gitter or here?
Gitter's fine.
Yeah, Gitter is fine. Okay. Or and just also just for the sake of the recording, just tell us what number it is.
Yeah, wait a minute. So I posted it in Gitter. Also here. That's one example. There are several ones.
Oh, okay. From views in Drupal core.
Yeah.
Or sorry, in Contrib.
Yeah, Drupal 7.
Okay. I would suggest you mirror it in the backdrop queue so we can start tracking it separately.
Yeah, and do you think generally that it's hard to implement the tokens in a views field? Or?
No, I mean, if it's already being done in header and footer, there's no reason it can't be done the same way in the global text field.
Are they actually the global tokens, though, in the header and the footer? They're not just the views tokens?
Yeah, I think in Backdrop only the views tokens.
Right. Yeah, it's different. They're kind of, I mean, they use the same syntax, but they're kind of different things.
Yeah. So in Drupal, are there token module tokens in the header and footer, or are they views tokens there too?
I'm not sure. I didn't test it. But in the issue which I posted, they say that also general tokens work, but I'm not sure.
So theoretically, just from my experience of adding tokens to things, it's not very hard to add tokens to things. So I don't understand why we couldn't add tokens to the global text field. But I know that Views does its own tokens differently, and that allows it to pull stuff like out of the view that aren't available to the rest of the token system. But I don't know, I can't imagine a reason why we couldn't do both unless they conflicted with each other. But that doesn't mean that there's not a problem there that we haven't run into yet. But in my mind, it seems like this should be fairly straightforward.
Yeah, we did add, just recently in 1.10, we added token support to the maintenance message, which was, again, for consistency, because previously there was only one replacement that was possible, and that was the site name. And so we changed that to use, the site name token instead of at site name. And so this would be a really similar change, basically doing the same thing there. Like one limitation, of course, is that as with the maintenance message, it only supports the global tokens, which, there's only like 20 of them or something like that. That includes the site name and the slogan and the current date and things like that.
Yeah, but I think that would already be a nice feature.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a long-standing issue in Drupal, and we could solve it maybe.
Yeah.
As to why the
Thanks
reason
for the feedback.
as to why the reason then is just hasn't been done.
Yeah. It's funny though.
Like,
It seems
so
like
many things.
it seems like such a good idea. It's like surely someone should have tried that by now.
It's also a good idea because we don't want to have views PHP.
Yeah, especially for us. Yeah.
And I solved it with a template, so with the views field template, but there I have the date to localize it. It's quite complicated.
Yeah.
And it's unnecessary work because I have the localized dates in Drupal, but
The summary of it all is it's not totally impossible to achieve it, but it requires more developer, what you call it, dev or technically savvy people to achieve it. Like you have to mess with templates. Could be done through the UI, and this is what.
So I'll post an issue.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Well, we are pushing the hour-long mark. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and sticking with us through this long meeting. Lots of very exciting things still progressing, maybe not on all fronts, but on many fronts. So thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you guys online.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.